Welcome back to another episode of the AYM Show. You might notice a couple of different things. New location, new haircut, maybe some differences. However, I truly want to showcase and share another message that I think is deeply powerful. So without further ado, I just want to get right into it. And I really want to start off with a very, very hard truth. We're all worshiping something, someone. The only question is what and who. And I think it's an extremely important question that we have to ask ourselves and ask others around us. Understanding, I kind of want to define what an idol is. So understanding what an idol is very important, biblically and practically. So anything that you can't live without, or anything that drives you more than God drives you, is an idol that you succumb to, or an idol that you has control over you. And it's very important to identify the idols in your life. Now, maybe this is music or money or fame or clout. Fame and clout, I think, are the same thing. But understanding, I actually don't know, but understanding that having idols in your life is very, very dangerous if it takes you and strays you away from Jesus. The eyes should not be looking and idolizing things such as materialism or other people. You have to understand this. When we think of business, when we think of walking on a day-to-day basis, having idols that tie us down, very, very much so can hurt us in the long run. Business can easily become a form of worship if it's left unchecked. Now, it can also be a form of ministry if you use it correctly, but it also can be a form of worship to an idol that you might have struggled to overcome. For example, if I have a business and my only objective is to make as much money as possible and never impact others, I don't care how I do business, I don't care who and how I treat other people, that can become very dangerous because it's left unchecked. And it's very important to understand that the day and age that we live in, it's become more and more rare to have people who are honest, have integrity, and honor God through their businesses and through their works. So this is my encouragement to you, is to start taking a step back and looking at the things that you're doing and ask yourself, is this actually honoring God? Is this actually making a positive impact? Am I actually doing something that aligns with my mission, my values, and what I want to do in the future? Now, a Bible verse that really connects to this is Exodus 23, and it says, "You shall have no other gods before me." It's simple, yet extremely powerful, and I think oftentimes people overcomplicate how simple it is. We often complicate things in life, when in reality, the things that are the most simple often work the most effectively. We want to have a 10 or a 50-step morning routine that thinks and gets every little small detail. By the time you're done with that morning routine, it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon and you haven't started any of your work. Maybe we should switch that perspective and we should just understand that we're all going to have different ways and different modes that work best for us. Some might work best when you're in a tiny closet with no windows, no noise, just you in focus. Now, some other people might work best when you are up late. You are working best at the times of like 8 o'clock at night to 12. Or maybe you work best when you work in the morning, so you try to do all those hard, difficult tasks in the morning. Everyone has their own uniqueness, I think that's a word. And it's very, very important to understand that it's okay if you don't fit into a bucket that is given to you by society. We're all made in the image of God. We're all unique. And yes, maybe we'll have similar interests here and there, but your job isn't to conform to this world. Your job is to go out there, do different things, go showcase who you are, showcase a different perspective, be unique, do different things, come at things at different perspectives. And something that I think is extremely important to understand is we're not made to become carbon copies of one another. We're made to showcase God in our own unique and creative ways. We're creative beings. Not all creatures have that ability. We have a consciousness. We have intellect. We can create things with our bare hands. We can create devices. We can create watches with art. We can create literature with books. We can do so many different things that create so much in this world. And we have so many different angles at looking at things. And you also have that ability. You also have that creative side in you. You have it because God created you in a creative image. Something that connects to this is Epictetus, and he says, wealth consists of not having great possessions, but having very few wants. And I think it's very, very fitting because we look at the world that we live in and we think of wealth as materialism, as money, as finances. And while money is extremely important and you need to respect and value money with all your heart, if it's the end-all be-all, it's never going to get you to where you want to go. But having few wants, maybe you have peace, maybe you have just by yourself and are doing the simple things in life, and that brings you joy, that's beautiful. And you have to understand that that's a very rare thing because most people are going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and never think to do those things. Now, I want to dive into the different idols and how we can avoid them, how we can overcome them, and what, I guess, the examples of what not to do versus what we could do. The first idol I want to talk about is the idol of money. Now, it's probably one of the most common idols that people face, and that's why I kind of want to cover it first because it's a big one that I've even struggled with, and I know a lot of people that I talk to struggle with. So let's get right into it. A lot of entrepreneurs want freedom when they first start. For me too. And it's still my goal is freedom. Time, location, financial freedom. That's a lot of people when you see online, on social media, whatever. That's what they're trying to sell you on is, you want to have time freedom. You want to have location freedom where you can travel the world. Or you want to have revenue and financials. You don't have to worry about paying your finances. That's amazing. That's lovely. But that slowly becomes and starts to become a way of worshiping revenue and profit and monetary gain. A lot of people and a lot of times we get into the cycle of saying, I want freedom. But then that turns into worshiping money. And that's a very dangerous step that we take. Instead of saying, I want freedom, we say, I want more revenue to have more freedom. And we equate freedom with having more money. But in reality, that isn't the case. Just because you have $100 million in the bank doesn't mean that you are free. If you are working 80 hours a week, physical labor, stressful job, and you're working that much, and you're making, let's say, $10 million a year, versus the person who works 4 hours a day or 4 hours a week, the 4-hour work week, and makes $1 million or $2 million a year, that person is so much more rich because they have more free time. They can do more things. They can travel the world. They still have very, very good wage to live off of, but they're not caught up with the work, and they can actually do things with the money that they earn, and they're not working themselves to death. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not bad to work, and I love working, but we have to understand that worshiping work or worshiping money is not okay. For example, we obsess over profit margins or checking our Stripe or Shopify or QuickBooks or bank accounts more than we open scripture, more than we spend time in prayer. And I think it's a very, very big struggle that a lot of entrepreneurs face because we're like, we want to have the next big company. That's fine. But are you doing it in God's timing? Are you including him and incorporating him in your daily works that you're doing on a day-to-day basis? The cost of what that leads you to is burnouts. You're going to have relationships that suffer because you worked so much. But in reality, maybe you didn't need to work that much if you took a step back and determined what were the most important things that would drive your business and drive your life forward at a more exponential rate. You become owned to having money, and you become owned to creating money because that's all you do. All you do is work. All you do is try to create more money instead of trying to find the way to make leverage, to make money so that you can spend time in scripture, spend time in serving. Money is a tool, and when you use it for good, that's amazing. But you have to understand that there's going to be different times in life where maybe you won't be as strong financially, and maybe you're going to be focusing more on family, or maybe you're going to be focusing more on serving. That's okay. We all have seasons in our life. Money is going to be a tool, like I said, for stewardship, not your identity. A lot of people get money. Then they want to have that showboaty lifestyle where they show everyone that I have this money, so look at me. They buy the fancy cars, they buy the fancy watches, they buy the fancy houses, and they think that is what's going to get them for people to like them or get people to like them. But in reality, it doesn't matter what other people think of you. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if Mary or Joe or whoever likes me. It doesn't matter. You're trying to impress people rather than trying to live closer to God. And that's a huge mistake. You spend so much time distracted by trying to flaunt your wealth, to try to impress people, to get what? A temporary satisfaction that, you're quote unquote better than them. But in reality, you're not, because we're all sinful. You have to understand this because it's such a powerful truth, but not many people understand the potency of it. Now, Matthew 6:24, it says, you cannot serve both God and money. You have to understand that money is a tool, right? You can't serve money. You can't put money here and work towards it. I don't even know if my hand went above the frame, but you get the point. A question that I can ask you is, when was the last time you made a big decision that was not at all influenced by money? Now, what could that be? Like, it could be a school decision, whatever it might have been. And I look back, and it's hard for me to find a specific thing. And you have to understand, I used to struggle with thinking that money was everything, thinking that materialism and flaunting wealth was the way I could get people to like me. But I've come to realize that it doesn't matter. Wealth, showing off, showboating, lying, doing any of those things, it doesn't matter, because it's not showing your true authentic self. You're lying to try to showcase a better image of yourself on the outside than you actually are. Now, everyone does it to a certain extent. But trying to be and unmask that self, to be truly you, to showcase the world who you truly are, to showcase the world who you are as a servant of Christ is so important. And I really, truly want you to understand that. Now, I think the second idol that a lot of people fall into, which a lot of influencers or people who want to go online fall into, is status and recognition. But that also kind of falls into people who want to get cars and houses and etc. So I kind of want to talk about that. A lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people who go in this entrepreneurial, work for myself, business route crave to be the quote-unquote guy or thought leader, influencer, CEO in the certain space. And I'd be lying to you if I told you that I never have thought that way. Every person that I've ever talked to about this in detail, I haven't asked a lot of people, but every person I've talked to about this has once in their life thought or wanted to be seen as a specific person in a specific field. Now, this means constantly refreshing your likes on your Instagram, comparing your follower count to another person, counting how many likes, how many shares you get on a reel, doing the videos, doing the work for the applause rather than having an impact. That is an extremely powerful one. Now, what it costs is a lot of anxiety, fear. Also, it kind of inflates your ego and you feel a bit better than other people, right? Like, you think that you're better than others, but in reality, you're not. And then you look at other people and then you wonder why you're not at their level yet when you're comparing yourself to someone who's been doing it for 20 years when you've only been doing it for 2. Now, it's very, very powerful and very, very important for you to understand that you're not going to get to level 20 if you're level 2 in one day. It's going to take time. It takes practice. It takes repetition. It takes failure. It takes practice. It takes repetition. And it keeps going over and over in the cycle. The people you see online are not the rich ones. The people who don't have any social media, who have millions of dollars and spend time with their family 24/7, those are the people who are rich because they're not bombarded with notifications. They're not bombarded by being distracted by the world. They're serving God in their small community, their family, and their church. That's beautiful. And I think more people need to understand that it doesn't matter if you have 5 followers or if you have 100,000 followers or 1 million or 500 million followers. If you're not serving, if you're only doing it for the status, you're not doing it for the right reasons. I like to think of it like this. Recognition can be a byproduct of what you do, not the purpose, and it should never be the purpose. To be recognized for what you do is not a bad thing, but it should never be the goal and never should be the main purpose of what you're doing, because then you're idolizing status. You're idolizing trying to be recognized by other people. And that's not a good thing to do. Now, I want to add a Bible verse that connects to this very, very powerfully. And it is Galatians 1:10. And it says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God?" And it's very, very important to understand this. People, so many people, and I know that everyone has done this once, at least in their lifetime, try to impress someone else. Maybe you're on a date and you try to impress someone. Maybe you're talking to someone and you want to impress them. Maybe you're genuinely just want to impress someone because that's your personality and you think that it's cool to try to impress someone, right? You can fall into the trap of trying to impress others rather than trying to impress God by being a steward of Christ. Marcus Aurelius says, "It is not fame that makes a man immortal, but his actions aligned with virtue." And I think it's beautifully put. Now, the third idol that a lot of people have, or thing that they fall into, is hustle and control. Now, this is something that is very, very tied to me and very, very personal. So I really want to talk about this because I think it's very, very important. Hustle culture is, in my opinion, the equivalent to saying worship for busyness. People who work constantly. Now, I say work constantly, and I work a lot, but when you are constantly busy and constantly doing things and having hustle culture mentality, I think that you're worshiping busyness. If you cannot sit still, or you feel guilty for resting, your idol might be having control over everything, right? You tie it to fear. You say, if I stop working every single day, then everything will fall apart. I don't know how many times I've said that to myself, but I think I've said it a little bit too many times. And honestly, you have to take a step back here. The cost is you don't have any time to rest. You don't have Sabbath. You have poor health. You have understanding that you're probably going to have relationships fall apart and fractured relationships. You're going to have times where you could have spent time with people and inconvenienced yourself in the moment to go see someone because that is maybe better for you. And it's just a genuine thing to do. Like, I feel like, okay, side note, I think that we've lost the sense of community in this world because we're online so much. I watched a YouTube video, ironically, on spending time on one of the most remote locations without a phone, XYZ. It was by Yes Theory. It was a recent video. And they said that I think like the statistic for how many hours someone spends on a mobile device or a screen a day is like 8 hours or something. And if you expand that over their lifetime, it's like 30 years. Maybe not that much. 20 years. It was a crazy number, and I was shocked by it. And I think that it showcases that we could spend and inconvenience ourselves to do things with others, to put ourselves out there. In terms of yes theory, seek discomfort. Go do things that challenge you, that are not comfortable. Go to that different country. Go to that different state. Do that different interview. Go to a different church. Do something that is uncomfortable. It makes you grow in ways that you possibly could not imagine. Now, the fix or the flip on this is trusting God as the ultimate provider. Trusting Him in everything that you do, on the timing, on the things that He has given you, the opportunities, the lessons, maybe the things that didn't go well, maybe they're lessons for you. And a Bible verse that I think very much connects this is Psalms 127:2, and it says, "In vain you will rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for He grants sleep to those He loves." And I think that is a beautiful verse that perfectly encapsulates this third idol of hustle and control. Now, moving on to the fourth one, I think is the idol of freedom. Now, I talked about freedom before, but I want to talk a little bit about freedom now and just talk about how that can be an idol as well. I think the irony is a lot of people want freedom, like entrepreneurs want freedom, but then they become enslaved in their business. Now, I kind of mentioned this a little earlier, 2 idols ago, but I really wanted to touch on it a little bit more because I think it's very, very prominent in the entrepreneur online business model, or even in person. When we say, like, we want freedom, and then we end up working 24 hours a day, enslaved, quote unquote, with the work that we do, we're never truly free. We're always on a laptop. We're always, quote unquote, on. We're on that on mode working. And I think that we're chained to the thing that you built that you thought would get you the freedom, but in reality chained you down from the place that you didn't want to be at in the first place. So I think true freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's doing what you were created to do. It was doing what God had put on your plate, and God had given you the purpose of what He has given you to do. In 2 Corinthians 3:17, it says, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." But I think that it's important to understand that we idolize freedom. We idolize hustle, we idolize control, we idolize success, recognition, money, all those things that we idolize to the point of overexertion to a certain thing that we idolize, and it's not okay to do. Now, what can we do? How can we identify these? How can we dismantle these idols? Well, firstly, we can audit our days. Where does our time go? Where does our energy go? Where our thoughts go most often? Then we can check our emotions. So what makes us anxious? What makes us angry? What makes us happy? What makes us euphoric? That's often the idol that you can find and search for. And then we can recenter ourselves daily through prayer, scripture, journaling, reminding yourself who's really on the throne, who's really the leader in all of this. Then we can reframe our lives and businesses to align with that. As ministry, a platform to serve, and it's not a platform to self-worship. This podcast is a platform to serve. Your business should be a platform to serve. Final one is having accountability. Surround yourself with people who care about your soul more than your success. People who motivate you, keep you accountable, structure their lives so that they can have more success in every facet of their life. It's so important to surround yourself with people who support your goals, but also just have a genuine interest in who you are, a genuine love for who your soul and your soul on a day-to-day basis, who motivate you to become better. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing. And it's so important to surround yourself with other believers and people who push you to the next level and beyond. Now, the final verse that I want to leave with you is Colossians 3:23 verses 24. And I use this verse so much because I love it so dearly. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as for working for the Lord and not human masters. Business is not evil, money is not evil, success is not evil, growth is not evil, but when they become the ultimate idol, they do become evil, and you have to be very, very mindful of this. Ask yourself tonight, what am I worshiping without even realizing I'm worshiping it? And am I willing to lay that down so God can give me something better? I think if you can do those two things, you'll get very, very far. I can't say anything myself because I'm also working through these different things, but the final quote I want to leave you with is by this amazing author, St. Augustine, this amazing person, and it says, "Our hearts are relentless until they rest in you, Jesus." I love each and every one of you. Thank you for listening in. I know it was a bit of a hodgepodge episode with all this new stuff going on, and I have a little bit of a sinus infection, but I'll see you guys next week.